Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks so much for tuning in. Aren't you glad that Facebook and Instagram aren't down anymore? If you're watching this on Friday, yes, you probably or very likely know that yesterday, Thursday, Facebook and Instagram were down, let's just say for a long time. Wasn't actually for everyone, but for most people, including me and many of the businesses we represent, they were completely down. And it was so funny, and maybe I should say interesting, to watch people's reaction. I overheard one person saying, I just don't have anything to do on my phone anymore for those few hours that they were down. And isn't that interesting that you saw how valuable those two social media channels have come to the American public, specifically living in Houston, Texas, that people are going on those things 10, 20, 30 times a day. The stat is that you check your phone 120 times a day. And I believe it, and I felt it as well, if you would pick up your phone and realize, hey, wait, no, you can't go on these things, they're not loading correctly. And actually the day before that, Google was experiencing massive amounts of problems with Gmail. So I'm not sure what's going on, let's not say it was the Russian hackers or anything like that yet. But that was an interesting thing to learn about. Which brings me to my point this week. And the topic, the subject matter is, are you a marketer or an advertiser that goes with the fads, that is a first mover, and that you try everything that comes out first? And let me just bring up a few things that you probably aren't using or aren't going about seeking anymore, that were just a few years back, and maybe you could even argue some of these are even more recent than that. Let's start with QR codes. Anyone using QR codes anymore? Obviously your iPhone can now scan, if you have an iPhone, let me say that, it can now scan QR codes in the camera app. But QR codes were a big push in marketing. Pretty much everything you saw, posters, everything had QR codes on them, 4 or 5 years ago? And now you see them a lot on product goods, meaning consumables, but they really aren't used in marketing much anymore, and I was quite honestly never a fan of them. What about VR and AR? Facebook actually, where you may be watching this video, has integrated some VR features into their platform. But when they first came out, everyone was putting the goggles on, and Samsung was a big first mover in this marketplace. And they even saw, this just is not being adapted and accepted by the average consumer. And that's just 3 examples, and I bring them up because as marketers, as advertisers, we have to find a fine line between being a first mover, being innovative, trying to push the boundaries, and get out there and help everything flow as it should be, whether it's a new technology or whatnot. Some of which are cost prohibitive, right, to most companies. There's reasons why Coca-Cola and Cadillac and these massive organizations often try things first. Like, for example, geofencing. When that first came out, it was not widely used by most people because it was very, very expensive. Now, it's no more expensive than any other type of PPC or search or display that you can run. But that's an interesting example. And the flip side of being a first mover and being kind of at the forefront of what's going on or what's new out in the marketplace is being someone or an organization that sticks to your guns and does things that are tried and true, that you can measure, that you know or you believe you know work. And it's my suggestion and it's my encouragement that we find a nice line in the middle. Just because there's something new in the marketplace doesn't mean you should try it, right? And just because something's been in the marketplace for a long time, and really I'm talking about an advertising method or methodology, doesn't mean that it's bad anymore. A few years ago, there was a big push behind, no one watches TV anymore, right? If you've been around in marketing for long enough, you've heard that, no one's watching the local news, so on and so forth. The data says that's simply not true. They still have a very high rate of viewership, and there's other things you can talk about. If you're outside of Houston watching this video, you may think, radio's dead. Well, guess what? Radio's not dead in Houston. Houston is a commuter city, and there's a lot of people that still listen to AM, FM radio, and now Sirius XM, or whatever it's called now that they're together, are actually running advertisements as well, or Pandora, or Spotify. There's ways you can reach across all of these, but for a lot of people outside of this marketplace, you assume things that these old methodologies won't work in Houston, and they do. So, again, I don't have an answer for you. I think it's different depending on who you're servicing as a client or who you may be working on an in-house team for. But how do we as marketers encourage and invest in the first movers, but at the same time also stick to our guns and do some of the things that we know work and are well thought out and measurable. So that's my 2 cents. It's come up actually twice this week of people saying, hey, this is coming out, this is new, and we should do it. It's like, well, you can. We just have no data. We have no idea if it's working. We have no idea who else is going to do it. I believe in the power of presence, meaning that if there's one of your competitors doing something, you may want to do it as well. And that's a broad stroke, and we can argue about that later. But being intelligent in your competitive analysis and doing things, but being wise with your money, I think is spot on. So if you enjoy this conversation, I would love to continue this dialogue with you. You probably know my email, or you can message us here on Facebook, and we'll see you again next week. But as always, thanks for tuning in, and take care.